wild world of the diagnostic lab space, nothing is off limits. Science, compliance, sales, and marketing. Welcome to Lab Results with your host, Blake Ford. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to kick off a series that we call collision-based sales. You may have heard me talk about this a few times in the past. Collision-based sales is a method for a salesperson, a leader, to be able to communicate a message. The 6 stages are: communicate a message, capture permission, convert mindset, compel to action, close commitment, and create competence. And what we've done is we've taken it and we've actually focused it on diagnostic laboratory sales, where we can start off with somebody who doesn't understand who we are, doesn't know what we do, right? They may think or assume, because we're selling a lab product in today's world, today's September 14th, 2023, they may think that we're a COVID sales rep. They may think that we're selling infectious disease only. In 2015 and 16, they may have thought that we were just a toxicology sales rep, or that we were selling pharmacogenomics testing, right? And so, your message is going to differentiate yourself. All the basic 101 sales stuff that you've learned out there, the things that are important, stacking your value and your elevator pitch, and making sure that you don't word vomit all over the person that you're pitching to, right? But more than that, today we want to focus on an important element of the message, which is the truth. Guys, there's too many lies in diagnostic lab sales. There are too many liars. There are too many people who are spouting off stuff that they actually don't understand. And what is at risk, and why this is super important, is because what's at risk is the patient, right? The end result, if we lie to a provider, the provider not only stops trusting us as an individual, right? But they also stop trusting us as a sales group, as a category of influencers. As people who bring a message to them, they have a higher and higher, thicker and thicker wall against our messages. And COVID has done a lot of bad. COVID sales reps, COVID pop-up laboratories have done a lot of bad. And this morning in my worship hour, I was reading about, I kind of was all over the place. I started listening. I'm listening to this book called The Gospel According to Jesus by John MacArthur. He mentioned the reference of tares among wheat. And I didn't know what that meant. So I went in my Bible app and I popped open it and I looked at, I just put tares and seeds, and it gave me Matthew. And so I got into Matthew and started reading. And what I realized was, and it's a study Bible that I'm in, so it gives me the background context. So I realized is that these tares that are among the wheat, tares are weeds that are growing amongst your crop. And so the parable basically is, you have good seeds, you have bad seeds, right? And these weeds will choke off the good seeds. So imagine, follow me on this. The good seeds are the truth. The bad seeds are the lie. It's not too hard to kind of read into this. Well, the tares actually are, in these times, was a plant called a darnel. And a darnel was a plant that looked like wheat, felt like wheat, but it produced a seed that was worthless. And so in the parable, the helpers and the workers that are doing the actual work in the crop, are the message, come back to the master and say, hey, should we go ahead and pull up all the darnel? An enemy has planted seeds in our crop. Now, just to digress, this was such a big deal back then that there was a Roman law actually against doing this, because what neighbors would do when they were at war with one another, or they didn't like each other, or they wanted to take advantage of each other. That's why this principle of love thy neighbor was such a big deal. And don't covet thy neighbor's goods. It's because they would literally, in the middle of the night, go and plant these darnel seeds and ruin the easy income and this very simple crop that they could survive off of, that could feed them and they can sell, allow them to be able to sustain themselves. So there's a Roman law against doing this, right? So the workers come to the master and say, what should we do? Should we pull up the darnel or the tares? And the master says, no, because you may pull up the roots of the good wheat. So we'll just let them grow intertwined until harvest. And then we'll make a stack of all the darnel and burn it. And we'll put all of the wheat in the barn. All right. So here's how we take that parable from a very important book into our actual sales and work lives. And there's some literary references here we'll talk about along the way. But there's a coworker in your life right now. There is somebody that is riding shotgun on your message. It could be somebody that works for you. It could be somebody that you follow and that you work for. It could be the CEO of your actual laboratory that are planting these seeds, these enemy seeds inside of your message. And it's nearly impossible to be able to get those seeds out until it's harvest time, right? The best thing you can do is to protect your message, your life, and your crop from an enemy being able to come in and actually plant those seeds. And if you're doing it, all you're doing is setting yourself up for a lot more work when it comes to harvest time. Because now, like a surgeon, you have to go and actually cut out each one of the lies. You have to go out, like the amount of energy that it takes to protect a lie. Lies are collusion, right? Truth is collision. The truth needs no defense. The reason why we call this collision-based sales is because it is a collision with the story that is prevailing. It's the status quo. It's the belief system, the worldview right now that a provider or someone has about something that's just not true. It's not true. If it was true, we wouldn't be colliding with it. We would be agreeing with it. We would be collaborating with it. If a doctor has a better test than the laboratory that I'm representing, why in the hell would I ask them to switch? Who's it benefiting? They got a better turnaround time. They got a better panel. They got more metabolites and analytes. They got a great relationship with their salesperson. Their labs in network, right? They're bulletproof. Next, there's somebody out there that has a horrible situation. Every sales leader I've ever heard wants people to try to do things that are hard. Why would I go there whenever they're good? Next, go to the next one. Go to the next one. There's somebody that is in a desperate situation that wants your laboratory products. If you're selling the truth, if you're representing a laboratory that tells the truth, if you're representing a laboratory that actually does what they say they're going to do, right? If you're not, reach out to us, please. We'll look to place you at one that does. There's not a lot of them, but we know some. So as you kind of move through this, I was discussing this with one of my creative directors this morning, and he mentioned the story of Narnia. We were looking at some of the biggest liars in kind of from literary terms, and we were looking at Edmund from Narnia and some of the parallels between Narnia and Edmund and Judas Iscariot. The difference here is that Edmund got his redemption, right? So he ends up commingling with the White Witch. He's weak at this point. His integrity is lowered. I mean, it's World War II. He gets shipped out of England really for protection. She gives him these Turkish sweets. He's enchanted, and he omits it. And it ends up becoming a very big problem for his brothers and sisters. And then he's jealous of his older brother, Peter. And there's all these things that actually end up coming in that story. I watched this when I was in my 20s. Now that I have a 7-year-old, or about to be a 7-year-old at the end of this month, as she's reminded me 1,000 times, I'm going to watch it again with her. I think she's going to love it. But see, Edmund gets his redemption story. Judas of Iscariot doesn't, right? He has so much regret and so much remorse. He ends up hanging himself. He takes the coward's way out. Where Edmund is able to actually redeem himself and actually becomes a very just and powerful king, right? So if you're in a process where you know that you've told some lies, here's the gotcha moment. depending on who's training you. Like, your mind is the crop. Your brain, your soul, your ethos, your pathos, your logos, everything that makes you who you are, you have to be fertile soil. So you may have somebody who's trying to plant good seeds in you, and you're just rejecting it. The truth isn't willing to come from you. If you don't have truth in you, you're not going to sell truth. Liars buy from liars. Growing up, my father always had a saying, buyers are liars. He was a car salesman. Okay. And I like to believe that my dad actually told the truth, because every single time he came home complaining about someone, he complained about people lying to him. And there's one thing that my dad would always say: you don't lie. You tell the truth. I got whipped as a kid. This was beat into me. And I'm actually thankful and grateful that he did it. But he'd say buyers are liars. I listened to a podcast from Coach BQ, Brian Q. Davis, great man. He has a Sales Warrior podcast. And the podcast I listened to was Liars Buy from Liars. And he goes into this collusion of lies. So we come into a medical practice and we're there as a guest. And then we're trying to convince through force the relationship to speed up. It's no different than ChatGPT. We don't know how to write. We don't know how to communicate with the written word anymore. It's not something that we practice. So now we have this AI program, and I can give it a prompt, and I can write a letter of separation for an employee and not have any emotional attachment to the actual letter. I can go to ChatGPT and write my actual webpage, the storefront of my laboratory, and not have any emotional attachment to what that actually looks like. It's all lies. It's all BS, right? You cannot circumvent the work. The relationship is going to gestate the way that the relationship actually gestates. And that takes it back to the crop analogy. You plant the seed, guys, you water it. You go by and you ask questions and you follow up. This is not Tinder, right? If you're in your 20s or your early 30s, back in my day, I'm 43 years old. I had to actually seduce my wife. I had to talk to her. I had to give her a message that was rooted in truth, because every woman I ever lied to left me. So I had to communicate something of truth and of value to my wife, and I had to be a good man for her to want to marry me. So to ask her on a date. And it wasn't a one-night stand. And the relationships with your practices cannot be that to you. They cannot be a dating app. You will not speed up your results in this game. All you're going to do is set yourself up for at harvest time. I've got to cut the tares out and burn them. Every one of those lies. Or worse, it's never going to produce a harvest. Completely choked out. A waste of time. Financial ruin. Lost my job. Doctor complained about me to the laboratory. Doctor won't give me any recommendations. If your message is based on false facts and you are misleading, you do not deserve to be in this business. It has to be based on clinical, actionable results. And if you don't know what that means, and you're not studying your ass off to figure out how to connect clinically with the doctors, you don't deserve to be in this business. You have an obligation to the patients that you serve, to the providers that you serve, to their family members, for you to be the best you possibly can be at what you do. And lying and cheating will not get you there. You cannot polish a turd. I'm sorry, it's still a turd. And so as we work through communicating this message and we get into some of the more tactical aspects of this, as far as the clinical application, there'll probably be a little bit less fire for me, because I want to go more into teacher and less preacher. But today I need you to understand, we're going to be talking about how to connect clinically with doctors, so that way they will say yes. Do not use what you're going to learn for evil. People can learn this and learn how to manipulate folks. Because we're going to talk about the psychology of the brain and the physiology of the brain and how we get people to buy it, how we get them to say yes, how we convert their mindset. It's very valuable information we're going to be sharing on this podcast. So you got to hear it. It's got to be rooted in the truth first. If not, it's going to be all for nothing. You're wasting your time and you're ruining an industry by even being here. That's the message of today, guys. God bless you. Have a great day. Travel safe and fight the good fight.